So some of the events and meetings and whatnot that have taken place since our last update on June 9th, we had delegates here from the Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference who visited Six Nations. They were quite impressed with our community. On June 10th, Six Nations Polytech had their student recognition. And on the same evening, we had our annual awards banquet at Six Nations. So congratulations to all the winners, the community treasurers, as well as the Wilmer General Memorial Award winners. On June 11th, we had Veterans Decoration Day at St. Peter's Church, and later that day there was a National Aboriginal Day of Prayer at Mohawk Chapel. On June 13th, 14th, and 15th, Constance Terry General and Melba Thomas attended the All-Ontario Chiefs Conference, which was held in Lac Seul. And I was unable to attend as I had commitments here, and I also had my regular Cabinet Committee on Poverty Reduction in Toronto, which I attended on the 13th. On June 15th, we were so pleased and happy to take part in the inauguration of the Niagara Wind Project. This is a project that we are partners with Borlax in, and when you're traveling to Niagara Falls and you see all those windmills flying around, just remember that we're partners in that, because that is the Niagara Wind Project. So we had that inauguration on June 15th. And on June 16th, I was in Edmonton. I was asked to be a speaker at the National YMCA Conference to talk about our partnership with the Y and the Beyond the Bell program that we have here in our schools at, I think it's at JC and at IL Thomas, and about the summer school program that we have. On the 20th, I attended a Political Confederacy Chiefs of Ontario Roundtable on climate change with the Minister of Environment and Climate Change for Ontario, the Honourable Glenn Murray, and stayed there for a Political Confederacy meeting on the 20th of June. On June 21st, it was Solidarity Day, and prior to taking part in our activities here at Chiefswood Park, I was in Toronto for a sunrise ceremony and to raise our flag at City Hall, along with the flag of New Credit and the Huron, the Inuit, and the Métis. So the next time you're in Toronto, do go by City Hall and look for our flag there. Then that's the Hiawatha Belt flag, because it's going to be flying there permanently. On the 22nd, we had some women chiefs here from Southern Ontario in an Indigenous Women's Leadership meeting. We're going to be looking at holding an Indigenous Women's Leaders Summit later in the fall, and we're planning that. There was also a flag raising at June 23rd at Harbourfront, so you should see our flag there as well. On the 23rd of June, I also was in Ottawa, along with Grand Chief Abram Benedict from Akwesasne and Chief Dean Sayers from Batchewana. We had a meeting with the Minister of Public Safety, Ralph Goodale, to talk about some border crossing issues. And it was a good meeting, and he's agreed to look at how we can start getting our rights recognized to get across the border, particularly from Canada's perspective. On the 25th of June, I attended the International Villages Ambassador Contest in Brantford. And on the 26th of June, we had representatives of the Mother Risk Commission in our community, along with a number of staff and leaders who are working on child welfare. And the Mother Risk Commission is looking at tests that were done on people's hair some years ago at the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. And as a result of those tests, some parents may have lost their children to the CAS. And the Commission is finding that some of those tests may have been unreliable, and this is what they're doing a study on. So they were there to get information and let people know what they've heard so far and to continue with their work. So once we get their final report, or they do their final report, they'll share that with us. On the 27th of June, I had some visitors drop into my office who were visiting from Scotland. And on the 28th, we had more visitors from Walpole Island who were attending our Justice Committee meeting. They have a court that comes into their community once a month, and they were coming here to provide information and share information to us on how that works. Later that day, I did an interview on the BBC, BBC Global News on Canada 150 and why our community wasn't celebrating Canada 150. What we were saying is that people should be celebrating that, that we're still here and we're stronger than ever, and also the people who are celebrating Canada 150 should be thanking the Indigenous people for teaching them how to live off the land when their settlers and ancestors first arrived here. On June 29th, I attended the graduation at Assumption College and presented the Aboriginal Leadership Award to Ken Drew Jacobs. It was so uplifting to see so many kids from Six Nations taking part in this graduation. So congrats to all those graduates, and good luck as you go on into the next chapter of your life into post-secondary education. Later that evening, Quincy Mack had a basketball show at the kids, which was sponsored by Health and Social. Thanks so much to sponsors, and thanks to Quincy for putting on a good show for the kids. I think they all really enjoyed it. On July 4th, I attended a fundraising event that was held at Woodland Cultural Centre for the Haudenosaunee women's lacrosse team, who are currently in the United Kingdom playing lacrosse in the Worlds, and they're representing the Iroquois Nationals. At that event, they also showed the Spirit of the Game, which is about lacrosse, a fine screening, which I encourage everybody to see. On July 5th, I took part in a Chiefs of Ontario Political Confederacy call. And on the 6th, I traveled to Niagara Falls along with Councillor Ray Miracle and Jan Burning, our Director of Lands Membership, to take part in a border crossing meeting that was hosted by AFN. There were people there from the United States Immigration as well as the Canada Border Services Agency. So it was a good meeting, and we're going to continue to talk about border crossing. And I'm going to continue to work on getting both U.S. Immigration and CBSA in our community so that they can meet with the community and answer questions. On July 7th, we had the Regional Director General of Indian Affairs here in our community to meet with Council. We gave an opportunity to Gawaneo Immersion School and the Everlasting Tree School to both make presentations to her, and we talked to her about a number of our infrastructure needs. So we'll continue to follow up and work closely with her on securing funding. On the 8th, I traveled to Mississauga. I was a speaker at the Ahmadiyya Muslim Convention and bring greetings, and there were like 20,000 Muslims there. So it was a lot of MPs, MPPs, mayors that were there as well. I was also interviewed on a broadcast that was broadcast around the world. So that was a good way to start getting our message out. And on the 12th of July, we had Team Newfoundland who were here for NAIG. I took part in welcoming them to Six Nations, and because they were coming pre-games to use our facilities for practice. So, getting excited. They were all getting excited for the NAIG game. So that's the stuff that happened since our last update.